This video is intended for the Stetson University DuPont Ball Innovation Lab. In this video, we're going to be going over best practices for 3D model creation. We'll be going over formats, some odd constraints of the viewport on 123D design program, the iteration of progress method, and a best practice of saving often. So to start off, we'll be talking about the formats. The format that you need to be familiar with is the .stl format. That's pretty much essential for having your 3D design become printed on any of our 3D printers. This one you can see from Autodesk. Let me go here. You can export 3D as STL amongst other formats that you can do. But if you're already comfortable in a 3D program, if it can save or export as STL, you should be in a good spot for having your 3D creation become printed. If it does not have the option for STL, this one I think Autodesk can import. Let's see, I think it can import OBJ. Well, if not, let's just say that it could, and your program could save an OBJ. You could save it in your program as OBJ, import into a comparable 3D program that could take that file, and then essentially you would use that program to convert it into an STL. So you just use a program as some kind of conversion tool in itself after importing your save format from the 3D program of your choice. So let's see, after the formats, let's see, we can do as this free version of 123D works in millimeters. You can see from the plane here, 25, 50, 75, 100. This is all in millimeters. It does not do inches. I believe the premium version does do inches, but I am not exactly sure about that. But as it does deal in millimeters, you might want to have a ruler on hand for visual on millimeter to inches conversions, or just to understand the length of millimeters if you're not used to those units of length. I will suggest anything you are creating or replicating, if the object is small, to be an even power of measurement higher, so that you can more easily adjust the object attributes, such as face, edge, vertex. For example, let's try to make a square mechanical nut. Let's see. So we're going to go onto the box. Let's make this 10 by 10 by 4. So we got something small like that right there. And then let's do a cylinder at 2 millimeter radius. And let me zoom in a little bit more. I'm going to select both of them, align them. So I'll align them that way, X, Y, and might as well do Z too, just to make sure that the cylinder passes through the square. And we're going to subtract, selecting the square first, and then the cylinder is the second thing to be selected as a cutting tool. Press enter, and now we have pretty much a square nut without any detail. There is an oddity about the viewport that I wanted to go over. This is the viewport, anything you view your 3D model in, that if you have your object, especially a small one, near the 0, 0 origin, you can pretty much zoom right in to it and almost zoom right through it, actually. So you have more ability to see little edges and facets of a small object as it closely approaches the 0, 0 origin. Now, if I take this same object and I move this object way far away from the 0, 0, you do not have that. Well, let's go even farther. Let's go like this. Okay. You see right now that if it's more in the center, you can't go in as far as you used to by the 0, 0. So there's a stopping point. So if you're working with small objects, you might want to move them closer to the 0, 0, so that way you can have a better pan, tilt, and zoom to get around the object to see all the features better. I'm going to take this back to the corner. Or if you don't want to work on such a small plane, I had suggested also increasing the measurements by a certain power. So for instance, let's just say we recreated what we just created there, but in a power of 5. So if we did 10, that'll be 50 by 50 by, actually, that'll be 20. So our measurements of 10, 10, 4 before on this small object are now 50, 50, 20 on this one. And we will also replicate the cylinder, which was 2, so times 5 is 10, and we'll just make this height of 50. Just both of them. Going to line it just like we did the smaller object, like that. Actually, we can do a Z. You can always adjust the viewport so you can see how your objects are sitting in relation to each other. I'm going to subtract, keeping the square, using the cylinder as a cutting tool, and we've got that again. I'm going to select the object once, press D to get it sitting down on the plane, and here's what we've got. You can see this tool, this shape up here. I'm going to use that later as a cutting tool. But as far as the iteration of progress now, we're going to save it within on this plane in different steps, and that way you have a certain object or feature change of the object that you can go back to. So for instance, if I do Control C for copy, Control V for paste, it gives me the move tool as I can move it away and move an exact copy of it farther away. I don't want to go to 100, but let's just say 75. Make it even, 75 millimeter paste to the top of it. So this will be the second iteration, and you just keep on working on that copy that you just made of the previous state. So in this case, let's see, go like this. We're going to do the edges. I'm going to make them curved to better, let's say 4, to better look like the real world square mechanical nut. Let's see, we got this one. We'll do that at 1, press enter, and then we'll even go here, 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 here. Oh. Let's zoom in a little bit more since it's not really picking up that last edge. Good. Go here, lay it one more time. Let's do 4, make it even. And I won't do the bottom edge, but here's what I mean by doing more iterations. So we changed up some features and we like where it's going, but just to make sure that we have this as a fallback model, I can do Control C, Control V again, hit the arrow, and since I'm moving in 75 millimeter increments, I'll just hit enter after it moves there, and then continue working on this one. So for instance, after you click the object, you just have to click it again for certain features that you might want. Let's say this one, this one, this one, and fillet, and it's going to select all of them. So that was 4. We'll keep it at that, and we'll do that middle one too. That'll be 1. Sure. I'm going to go back here. Remember, you can always hit top, then you can turn around, stuff like that if you need to. Use that cube in the top corner to navigate better your viewport. I'm going to select the entire object now. Copy, paste, click on that arrow once, do 75. And now I'm going to use this tool as a cutting tool. So I'm going to select it, copy, paste, move it up, move it over, change the viewport a little bit. I definitely want that higher. Click off it. I'm going to select both of them. Now when you select both and you use the align feature, just make sure that the bottom square, since we're doing this in 75 millimeter increments, you want that to kind of stay the same. You don't want that bottom thing to move. And as we hover over it, as it gives us a preview, you can see that it does not move the square, it just moves the center cut tool to be in the center. So that's great, that's what we want. And then we're going to go to subtract. Oh, wrong way. We want to select on the square nut and then select the hexagon as the cutting tool. Do that. After you press enter, you can see it cut right through. And then I'm going to take this, copy, paste, and when I'm running out of room on the grid, I just go over to the side of it. Let's do it still in 75. Click in there, 75. And it's kind of going the wrong way for me. I want it to keep it on the plane, so if I put a negative in front, it puts it off to the other side. And I kind of like that, but you see how I mean there are different iterations of how your work has progressed. So if you didn't like the way the cutting tool was, you could take this or recreate another cutting tool and put it up, and you have a backup image. You don't have to recreate base image to changed up image to this image where you need it, whereas in the stage to have the cutting tool put on top of it. You don't have to recreate those 2 steps. You can just go back to this. You can use your new cutting tool in case you want a different shape in there. Put it on top, cut it, and then move it to wherever you need to in order to continue with your project, especially if you didn't like the way that shape came out as a cutting tool. Kind of like a way to back up your progress while you're still in the same project. I will take this now, and where we elevated the power by 5, I'm going to copy paste. I'm going to show you how we're going to take this back. And since we did it by power 5, an even power, we can go to scale. Uniform factor 1 is 100%, so if we went down to 0.2, because 0.2 times 5 equals 1, and press enter, that is what we have now. We have something the same exact size as our original square nut. I'll zoom in so you can see that. However, we were working with it on a larger dimensions, so it was easier to move around and adjust those features, edges, vertices, and faces. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Wait, it's not. Let's see. I'm gonna click it, hit D, click it, hit D. You can see that pretty much it is same size. All right. And then just don't forget to save. That's another best practice. You need to save your models. Well, that's STL, but you could save to my computer this project. And then when you're done with it, you would also want to, before exporting it as STL, you can delete everything else temporarily, except for your actual ultimate goal, which was your real world size hex nut. And then you can go to export as 3D STL, export as ASC2, hit OK, and then you just save it where you need to as an STL. And that's pretty much it.